Greetings, cartoon and football fans. This is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network bringing you the highlights from Week 11 of the USCFL's 2020 season. Before we begin, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm talking verbatim. This is not on a script. This is coming straight from my mouth only. I am 52 years old. I live in South Florida. I'm a diabetic. I'm a retired retail worker. I have not worked a day since 2002. Saturday will mark the 18th anniversary of my unemployment. I've been able to survive thanks to what my mother left me after she passed away. And as long as the stock market is good, I'm good. I'm able to ride out this terrible pandemic. I see on television all that has been going on throughout the country with the protests. And I'm on your side if you are a protester. But I am a diabetic. I have diabetic neuropathy. It's hard for me to walk because my feet tingles. It keeps me up at night. I also have arthritis in my knees and back. I cannot stand or walk for long distances at a time. When I go grocery shopping or shopping for supplies, I have to use a motorized cart. Without it, I wouldn't be able to shop. That's the kind of person I am. I collect playing cards. I'm a master pinball player. I even have a pinball machine in my garage. This is the kind of person I am. I tried to put up round 5 of the She-Ra Showdown yesterday, and it was blocked 5 times. And I had to put it up 6 times. And I put it up without sound. From now on, there will be no music, no sound, no nothing in my videos. Because apparently YouTube doesn't allow music to be used. Unless you have special permission, I don't know. I have limited resources and limited knowledge of how to make a proper video. I am not a web designer, although I did learn how to fix computers after my last job 18 years ago. But I was never able to apply what I learned to get a job. And now that certificate that hangs on the wall here in my house and in my home office is useless. It's obsolete. What I learned 15 to 18 years ago wouldn't even apply now. It would be so much different. Here's the thing. I got an email from Google last night, and it said that one of the songs that I tried to use was a live recording done in 1966 on the Ed Sullivan Show. The song I tried to use was the Nancy Sinatra classic, "These Boots Are Made for Walking." She-Ra herself even selected this song as background music when she takes the field at Filmation home games. Daphne Blake uses the Laura Branigan classic, "Self-Control." The lyrics of that song describes Daphne almost perfectly. I try my best to put on a good video and a good show for you. I've been able to get 28 subscribers. I'm not saying this because I'm jealous or it's sour grapes. But there's almost everything on YouTube that has some kind of copyright attached to it. I can assure you that the USCFL is a strictly fantasy football league made for pure entertainment only. It is not a commercial vehicle. I have never taken a single penny in ad revenue. But going back to the Nancy Sinatra song, they said that I was using a 1966 live recording. If I could play the song for you right now in its entirety, there is no applause at the end of the song. I got the song from a compact disc that I bought 15 years ago at a Barnes & Noble in Coral Gables, Florida. The album was a greatest hits album, and it was titled "You Go Go Girl." Because remember, Nancy Sinatra was popular, really popular, back in the 1960s. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't sing that song on the Ed Sullivan Show back in 1966, but I don't have such a recording. In fact, I try to avoid purchasing any type of live recording if it's possible. And if I do purchase something with a live recording, I don't even put it on my hard drive or buy it on iTunes. That's the kind of person I am. And I just feel that it's just getting ridiculous that I spend up to 2 hours to make the She-Ra Showdown. And I spent up to 4 hours making this particular video. Because I want it to be perfect. I want it to be good. I want it to be interesting for you to watch and enjoy. But I can't do that if every time I try to be creative, YouTube throws up the red flag. And I'm really getting tired of it. And I feel that I'm being singled out. I have seen clips from shows that I've tried to apply to a video that has been red flagged for me, but it's not red flagged for others. Why is that? I'd like to know. Do these people get special permission? Do they need to sign some kind of waiver not to make any money off of it? I can assure you that in the 2 years that I've been doing YouTube videos, I have not made a single penny from it. In fact, I have spent a pretty penny trying to make it as enjoyable as possible. And when you put up roadblocks to try to stifle creativity, don't be surprised if the videos you make are not good. So if you were to leave a comment in this video, I want you to understand that I have no control over what YouTube wants, or apparently it's all about copyright. But again, almost every single kind of video that is on YouTube contains some kind of copyrighted material. I understand about copyrights. I'm also an author. I have wrote the Fashion Girl series, 3 books that are available online. Don't look for it in Barnes & Noble. You will not find it. But it is available on their website. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on iTunes. You can buy it digitally as well as in paperback. I feel that I wrote good stories. But you know what? Just like with my not getting enough views on YouTube or subscribers, very few people, if at all, buys any copy of my book. I end up buying the books myself. And instead of trying to resell them to make some money, I just give them away. Like if I were to go to some kind of a meeting and they offered a door prize, I'll just give them a copy of my book as a door prize. That should not be. I have just as much right to earn money as anyone else. But a lot of people have seen to it that I'm not entitled. I want to close this speech with something that happened to me when I was 10 years old. And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. When I was 10 years old, and for a brief period of time, I was a Cub Scout. I was a Cub Scout through the school that I once attended at the time. I was able to breeze through the Bobcat portion of the program with no problems. The next step was the Wolf program. And they even give you a manual. And it's filled with information and assignments on how to do certain things. Now to my point. One of those assignments was to try to fold the American flag up that it forms a triangle with the blue field and the stars showing. No stripes, nothing else. A perfect triangle. I tried to do that, and I failed, and here's why. The only flag that I had at the time was attached to a flagpole that once hung on one of the walls of my house. My mother would not help me with this assignment, nor would she allow me to take the flag off of that pole so that I could practice. I couldn't try to fold it on a flat surface or on the ground. It takes 2 people to fold that flag properly. If you've ever seen 2 military soldiers folding the flag at a funeral, you know what I mean. That kind of assignment takes two people. Everybody else but me was able to breeze through that assignment. So naturally, I failed. You can't fold the flag by yourself, and you can't put it on a flat surface to form a triangle. So again, naturally, I failed. And it's been that way all my life. I don't have much to look forward to. And just gives me a way to kill time and entertain myself while riding out this terrible pandemic. So after we take a brief pause, and there will be no more commercial breaks, no more music, no more nothing. We're going to take a 30-second pause, and then we'll talk about Game 21 between the Classic Cartoon All-Stars and the Hanna-Barbera All-Stars from Atlanta. Welcome back. In Atlanta Friday night, the Hanna-Barbera All-Stars hosted the Classic Cartoon All-Stars for the right to advance to the quarterfinals. Last week, we presented our number one cartoon character in pop culture and USCFL history, and it was Daphne Blake. She put on a performance that proves why she was chosen as the number one character. During that game, Daphne threw 4 touchdown passes, on all of them to Shaggy Rogers, and won the game by the score of 51-20. The Classic Cartoon All-Stars was able to tie the game at halftime at 17-all. But in the second half, it was all Hanna-Barbera, and they had a 34-3 rout in the second half. And here's how some of the scoring broke down in the game. Hanna-Barbera took an early 10-0 lead in the first quarter until the Classics was able to get a touchdown from Woody Woodpecker to Betty Boop with just about a minute left to go in the first quarter. Then the game was tied at 17. For a brief period during the second quarter, Daphne got injured, and she was replaced by the Smurfette of the Smurfs. And she only threw 3 passes, completed 2 of them for 23 yards and 1 touchdown. And she was able to go up 17-7 in the second quarter. When Hanna-Barbera got the ball back, Daphne was okay and was able to play the rest of the game. The Classics put up 2 scores late in the second quarter on a 41-yard touchdown run by Chili Willy and a field goal by Underdog. But again, in the second half, it was all Hanna-Barbera. And Daphne started her onslaught by throwing a touchdown pass to Shaggy 4 times, as I had mentioned. Once for 30 yards early in the third quarter, another time for 62 yards midway through the third quarter, a 48-yard strike to Shaggy early in the fourth quarter, and a 5-yard touchdown pass midway through the fourth quarter. The only score that the Classics got was a 49-yard field goal by Underdog. And again, Hanna-Barbera won the game 51-20. And Huckleberry Hound even got in the act on the first score of the game with a 62-yard pick 6 for a touchdown, in which he earned game MVP honors. However, even though Daphne did more as far as touchdowns were concerned, Woody Woodpecker actually had more thrown for more yardage than she did. Woody Woodpecker was 32 of 60 for 356 yards, 1 touchdown, but he also threw 6 interceptions, 3 of which resulted in Hanna-Barbera points. Chili Willy rushed for 26 carries for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, Betty Boop had 1 touchdown with 8 receptions and 119 yards. Daphne was 19 of 31 for 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Wilma Flintstone carried the ball 27 times for 92 yards, but no touchdowns. Shaggy had 8 receptions for 170 yards and again 4 touchdowns. And Hanna-Barbera will advance to the quarterfinals while the Classics are once again done for the year. And this is a long time coming. They have not had a championship appearance since 1998, and their woes continue into next year. So they're just going to have to wait till next year to see if they will be able to advance to the Disney Bowl. And here is how the scoring took place. And remember, there is no sound now during the highlights. After we take a brief pause, we will talk about Game 22 from Denver as the Warner Brothers All-Stars took on the Jim Henson All-Stars, for which Jim Henson tried to get their 9th consecutive win. Welcome back. As I said a moment ago, the Jim Henson All-Stars took on the Warner Brothers All-Stars in Denver as Jim Henson was looking for their 9th consecutive win and a chance to go to the quarterfinals. The Looney Tunes wanted some revenge on the Muppets for last year in the semifinals. They lost to Jim Henson by the score of 34-6, for which Jim Henson went on to win the Disney Bowl title. Now, for this game, it's a little different. Jim Henson was just simply on fire in their second home game this year. After Warner Brothers took a 3-0 lead early in the first quarter, Miss Piggy ran the ball 24 yards for a touchdown to go up 7-3. After another Wile E. Coyote field goal, Bugs Bunny threw a 16-yard touchdown pass to Plucky Duck of Tiny Toon Adventures to take a 13-7 lead at the end of the first quarter. The second quarter was nothing but a series of field goals, 3 for Jim Henson and 2 for Warner Brothers. Surprisingly, in spite of that, Warner Brothers was up 19-16 at halftime. But just like Jim Henson has done before, it was them all the way. After 2 raw field goals in the third quarter, Daffy Duck ran the ball 6 yards for a touchdown to go up 26-22 with just over a minute to go in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdown runs by Abby Cadabby of Sesame Street and Miss Piggy. The Jim Henson All-Stars won the game 36-26 and will advance to the quarterfinals while they have eliminated Warner Brothers. This just wasn't Warner Brothers' year, apparently. As you know, Bugs Bunny was number 3 in our top 40. Kermit the Frog was number 4 in the top 20. Here's a surprising fact. Bugs Bunny threw for 1 touchdown, but Kermit the Frog had no touchdown passes, and Bugs threw for more yardage. He was 20 of 36 for 269 yards, but also threw 5 interceptions, 2 of which to Oscar the Grouch, for which he won game MVP honors as a result. Daffy Duck carried the ball 33 times for 172 yards and 1 touchdown. Kermit the Frog was 17 of 32 for 197 yards and threw 1 interception. Miss Piggy carried the ball 39 times for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gonzo the Great led the receivers for Jim Henson with 5 receptions for 51 yards. Again, Jim Henson will advance to the quarterfinals as they eliminated Warner Brothers and got their 9th straight win. And here is how the scoring took place. The 51 points scored by Hanna-Barbera could guarantee them the number one seed in the quarterfinals unless one of the four remaining teams next week scores more than that. As for Jim Henson, they might have won the game, but they might not be guaranteed home field advantage for the quarterfinals. In this league, it's points that count. After one more brief pause, we will reveal the answer to last week's trivia question, and there will be no more trivia questions after that for the rest of the season. And now for the answer to last week's trivia question. We asked, true or false? Before he became president of the United States, Donald Trump was responsible for the demise of the old United States Football League. The correct answer is true. The United States Football League played from 1983 to 1985 and was about to go into the 1986 season when Donald Trump, who was the owner of the New Jersey Generals of the USFL at the time, wanted to put the league in the fall to compete with the NFL. Apparently, there was some kind of rift between the two leagues, and the USFL eventually sued the NFL for $1 billion in damages for liability. The USFL won, but all they got was a $1 settlement. Eventually, Donald Trump got a check worth $3.76. Apparently, there was interest attached. A check that he still has in his possession today and has never cashed. And if it wasn't for him, the USFL would have probably would still be playing today. But after the league's demise, we took the US from the USFL because before that, we were known as simply as the Cartoon Football League. Again, we weren't trying to replace anybody, but I thought USCFL would sound better than just the Cartoon Football League or CFL. Because remember, there is a CFL in Canada, the Canadian Football League. And that will do it for this week. Join us again next week as we will present the highlights from the final two games of round 3 between the Filmation All-Stars taking on the Nickelodeon All-Stars from Richmond, Virginia, and the 80s All-Stars taking on the Sci-Fi All-Stars from Miami in a Game 11 rematch. Until next week, stay safe and take care. And one final note. If you do leave something, a message in the comments section, please do not be negative about it. Again, I cannot help the fact that I've got limited resources and not able to put on a decent video. I'm doing the best I can with what little I've got. And that's always been the case with me. This is not a pity party. I'm just telling it like it is. Again, this is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network, wishing you peace. Goodbye.